Welcome to Sustainability in Your Ear, the Earth911.com podcast for the week of December 24th, 2018. I'm Evelyn Lopez, and we are recording at the very thought-provoking and reflective Moonyard Studio in Tacoma, Washington. Well, our year is ending, and it's time to look ahead and ask ourselves, what is just one thing I can do to change my world? That's right. It's time for New Year's green resolutions for 2019. So today, in the beautiful Moonyard Studios, we have Mitch Ratcliffe, our Earth911 publisher. Mitch, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Howdy, everybody.
And also on the line, we have two of our Earth911 writers, Sarah Lozanova and Trey Granger. Sarah, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. How are things in Maine?
Nice and sunny and plenty of snow already.
Wow, that sounds great.
And here we have about 55 to 60 degree temperatures, strangely.
Yeah, it's kind of weird right now. And Trey, how are you?
I am great. I'm in Phoenix right now and heading to San Diego tomorrow.
Oh, that'll be nice. So you got a lot of sun ahead.
Yes.
Well, as Mitch mentioned, we're having sort of a strangely warm December in Washington, which is not a bad thing because it makes everyone talk about global warming and climate change.
Yeah, and the tornado did too.
The tornado does that too. Yeah, it's always exciting.
We actually had a very rare tornado in Port Orchard, Washington that knocked a building down. That does not happen in the Northwest very often.
Nope. Give me earthquakes any day. Oh, tornadoes are scary.
I don't know. Having lived through Loma Prieta, I can't say I agree.
Well, maybe not. Yeah. Well, before we get started on our New Year's resolutions, let's talk a little about the surveys that are up on the website. Mitch, we've got a couple up now.
Yeah, as always, we ask the Earthlings each week a question about how they feel about the future of the world and how they're making choices. So we have two questions that have answers. First was, will your next home be larger or smaller? Now, half of the respondents, 48%, said that they're going to move to a tiny house to live lightly on the earth. So that's very encouraging. 34% of folks said that they're going to keep about the same size as their current home. And only 3% out of the entire group said that they would buy a larger home. And interestingly, that was somebody who wanted to move into a larger home in the suburbs. The answer was, it's a mansion for me. No one chose a larger place in urban environments. And the 15% who chose smaller living in the city are apartment dwellers who are thinking about either condos or smaller apartments. So that's something. This is a dedicated group of folks thinking about their impact on the environment, and it's good to see.
Yeah, that is good. What other surveys do we have up?
Well, the other one, and I'm a little, not many people responded to this. I don't feel like it's completely representative, but we asked, how much would you pay for a zero-emission vehicle? Basically, what's the no-brainer price? I'll just go ahead and buy that. And we had recently written a story about the Scion, Sonos Scion, which is a solar-powered car that will be available in 2019 for $18,000. And 38% of our respondents said, that's the magic price for me. I'll buy that.
Right.
$29,000, which is roughly the cost of the Chevy Volt and other mid-range cars, was identified as the no-brainer point for 44% of the respondents. And $35,000, which is the base price of a Tesla Model 3, was attractive to 19%. Now, if you do the math, that's all the answers. No one said that they wanted to pay $38,000, $45,000, or $60,000 for an electric vehicle.
Yeah, I thought this was a little bit interesting. And I'll tell you, sort of my first reaction was, our listeners may be a pretty frugal bunch. They want to be a little bit careful about how they spend their money. But actually, these prices are in line with current electric vehicle prices.
And at the low end, you're talking about the same price as a Kia, right? And so people who are opting for cars that get 45 or 50 miles to the gallon are already thinking in that price range.
Right.
So I think that's very indicative of where, as we move into this next phase in the economy, where some people will be using their cars as Uber drivers and Lyft drivers and so forth, they're thinking about small, highly efficient vehicles.
Yeah. I think that's good. That's good for cities. That's good for everyone. So there actually is one more survey up that just came up the other day, and that's what lifestyle do you believe is the best model for a sustainable economy? But it's kind of hard to tell what to get from this because 12% said urban living can be the most efficient. And then 88% said we need to take the best of all lifestyles to establish new models of sustainability.
Yeah, and 0% said that suburban and rural living is the answer.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at is a few urban dwellers who feel that the highly concentrated environment in which they live is very efficient. But I think most people, and this represents, I'll say my view, I live in a suburb or at the edge of a rural community. And I don't think that we live particularly efficiently, but we need to blend a bunch of different things in order to do this right. And the one answer or the silver bullet approach is not going to be the answer for anybody. We need to have choices about how we're going to live within a sustainable framework.
Well, and actually I think this is important for another reason, and that is that there's a strong temptation sometimes in these environmental discussions to tell people you have to change.
Yeah, right.
You have to change a lot of the things that you enjoy and a lot of the things that make you comfortable. And people are resistant to doing that. And so I think this helps us to sort of say, the more effective way of managing change is to really talk to people and to figure out which of the things they're doing now they can still do and which things they can add. Yeah, what they can add, what they can do more of to be more successful.
Well, this is the perfect topic to kick off the conversation about New Year's resolutions, isn't it?
I think so, too. So there's also a number of really good interviews that are up on the website. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've had a chance to talk to 3 people recently, actually 4, who are just fantastic interviews. First was Dr. Beryl Toktai and Michael Oxman, who are at the Georgia Tech Schiller College of Business in the Ray C. Anderson Center for Sustainable Business. Now, this is an organization or a school about sustainable practices that has emerged within Georgia's MBA program. And it was driven by the founder of I'm going to forget the name of his company. There's my senior moment for the day. But Ray C. Anderson had built a company that was entirely circular years before it actually became fashionable to do so.
Yeah.
They did flooring, and they would use recovered materials for flooring. Now the Georgia Tech is encouraging people, particularly students, to learn how to not only think sustainably, but pitch the idea within their own organization or to other people to get them involved in it. And I think that's the conversational stuff that we're talking about needing to encourage.
Right.
Now, the second interview was with Vikram Agarwal, who is the founder and CEO of a solar comparison shopping service called Energy Sage. And Earth911, by the way, has partnered with Energy Sage to get people more information about solar purchasing decisions. But this is a free service that gives you, just like you would do with Expedia or Home Advisor, you get you tell them what you're interested in, and they come back with a whole bunch of bids and information about how to make a decision between them. And Vikram and I talked about the state of technology today, where we're going in terms of incentives over the next few years. They're falling, so if you want to take advantage of incentives before prices just become so affordable, we don't need to subsidize them.
Right.
Now's the time. We're probably 2 to 5 years away from the end of heavy solar subsidies. So there's a lot there that you can learn about, and certainly check out EnergySage.com to find out more. They will let you walk through the whole process. It won't cost you a cent, and you'll have your options in front of you. That's
great.
And then Dr. Kinnery Webb, who founded Health in Harmony, and that's at healthinharmony.org, is a doctor who went to the Borneo rainforest and recognized that healthcare was one of the main reasons that people who illegally logged in the Borneo rainforest did so. She tells a story about, for instance, a logger who had to cut down, I think it was 53 trees to afford a C-section.
Wow.
Now, that's 53 huge trees.
Right.
And what she realized was we need to give people access to better health care, and we need to help them out of illegal logging. So she began doing a trade-in program where you could trade in your chainsaw to be part of a legal logging regime that works and manages the non-protected rainforest. So there's some rainforest being logged still. But the result is that they eliminated 88% of the households that rely on illegal logging, leaving only about 80 households in the rainforest who still poach trees. And what they did at the same time was lower the mortality rate for children under 5 by 90%. So these people are living better. Not only that, they're making 3 times as much money on average now than they did before the program started. So they have higher income, their children are not dying, they can get health care, and they're protecting the forest, and they recognize their role in doing so. So it's a really inspiring interview. And we've got a couple of pieces coming up on the site that I just think are great stories about, for instance, residents of the Borneo rainforest go to the hospital where Kinnery Webb's clinic is. There's a photograph of an iceberg, and they take selfies in front of the iceberg.
Sure.
Because they have never seen one, but they also understand the relationship between what they're doing to protect their rainforest and the preservation of Arctic and Antarctic ice, which is just, I think, a great story.
It's a great story. That's quite fascinating, too, the idea that access to affordable health care can have really serious environmental consequences.
Well, and we know that women benefit overwhelmingly from investment in environmental protection because they tend to be the ones who suffer from malnutrition and poisoning from going out and having to work the worst jobs that we have.
Right.
So this is a general quality of environmental programs is that they tend to introduce social justice as well as better practices.
Very
Strangely, better practices are more just.
Yeah. It's good to know. So did any of these stories lead you to make any resolutions for this year?
Well, I'm following up on my resolution last year, which was to completely eliminate gasoline from any of my yard work.
Oh, yeah.
So I got rid of I got rid of our gardener with the gas mower and the gas trimmer, which is the most polluting thing you can have is one of those gas trimmers. Replaced it with green power, a mower, a trimmer, a blower, and all that kind of stuff. So now there is no gas involved in taking care of my yard. We've made other changes, but that was the one where I spent a few $100 to make a major change in the equipment.
Right.
And as I read through all these things this year, thought about it, my next step is to get rid of my gasoline car.
Oh, yeah.
And as you know, I have a kind of a thing for my car.
Yeah, you love your car.
And so this year, as I look at how I'm going to spend money, in addition to the changes in eating, for instance, I've eliminated meat at lunchtime. That's my big move for the year is to get to maybe it's a Model 3, maybe it's a BMW i8, but I want something that will be good for the world.
Good job. Okay. What other interviews do we have coming up? Anything in the works?
Yeah, we have an interesting story. Pantone, which is the color
the color
company,
people. Yeah.
chose a color called Living Coral for the color of the year for 2019. And we've got an interview with the Oceanic Society talking about that selection and the state of coral reefs around the world. So that'll be available just before this show airs.
Cool. That's wonderful. Well, moving from that, let's talk a little bit about our New Year's green resolutions for 2019. And the way we're phrasing this is, what is one thing I can do to change my world? So, Trey, would you like to talk about combating climate change, increasing cleaner energy, and lowering emissions?
Absolutely. So one of my big things this year has been trying to learn more about transportation and its impact on the environment. And I think it often gets pushed to the back burner when we think about climate change, the impact that driving cars actually has on our environment. We think a lot of, it's business's job to make cleaner factories and cycle more. transportation is actually the largest source of carbon emissions in the United States. It's almost 1/5 of our emissions come from just cars and trucks. Mm-hmm. And that's more than energy. That's more than pretty much anything you can think of that would have an impact on the environment. And so if I were to challenge people to do one thing to help the environment next year, it would be utilize more public transportation. There was an article that came out this year. Every year, the U.S. Department of Transportation releases numbers on ridership in public transportation. And of the 35 largest U.S. transit markets, 31 of them saw a drop in public transportation ridership between 2016 and 2017. The good thing for the people on this call is the two cities that had more than 1% increase were Seattle and the Phoenix metro area. So
very good.
Living in two areas that are very public transportation focused. Sorry, Sarah, there was no info on Maine, unfortunately. But if you look at other cities, I mean, Cleveland had an 11% drop in the last year. Charlotte was 11.5%.
Trey, what do they think is causing that drop? Is it because gas prices are lower, or is something else going on?
Or are people switching to Uber?
So I think the big reason for the increase in the two cities, I'll talk about that first, is that these cities have invested in public transportation. Mm-hmm. Actually put ballots on put measures on the ballot to fund new programs, to improve their bus lines, to put more money into light rail service, and they've seen it in ridership as a result. The decrease on the other end, definitely the increasing economy has made it so cars are more easy to afford. And as you mentioned, gas prices are lowering. But I think another thing that we don't talk about a lot is the stigma of public transportation.
Yes.
You look at the stats regarding ridership of buses, not so much the light rail or subways where it's more used for commuting. But if you focus strictly on buses, which are going to be the primary source of public transportation in most American cities, the largest income bracket, 30% of the riders make under $15,000. Mm-hmm. So we've got to encourage people that, hey, even if you are well off and affluent, ride the bus. It's not something where it's a bad thing. It actually really helps the environment, and get rid of that stigma that riding the bus is for the lower class individuals in America.
You know, the rise of Uber and Lyft are interesting challenges to this, and it's something that's being embraced by millennials and Gen Z, people who are younger than 23 or 24, as an alternative to and more flexible alternative to owning a car or, in their minds, public transportation. But we know these cars actually drive further to serve the individual than they would if they were just being used by the individual. Do you see, as these services evolve, and hopefully evolve towards all electric fleets, them displacing some of this public transportation, and how can we engage with that appropriately so that we do get people to use more efficient transportation overall?
I think the biggest area we're seeing the car sharing take an impact is with parking, because a lot of cities, it's becoming more and more expensive to park in garages or at meters. And so the great benefit of Uber and Lyft is you don't have to worry about parking your car. So I'm not sure how we as a society can address that, whether it's putting a less of an impact on parking fees in America, but that would just encourage more cars. I really don't know how we can encourage people to use public transportation more, but you got to understand, driving Uber is not any more efficient than driving for the environment.
Yeah, and I think that's the key is a combination of convenience. So maybe public transportation needs to make more stops or have more flexible and shorter routes that can be reconfigured in response to what's going on in the environment, which smart cities will be able to do. The sensor-based approach to understanding our transportation system is going to radically alter our transportation experience. And that's, I think, the opportunity as we move forward. That's interesting. We'll see how it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
What are some other things that you looked at, Trey, with regard to combating climate change and lowering emissions?
So home energy is definitely a huge one, especially as we're getting into winter months and people start running the heat more and building fires to stay warm. The more that we as a society can use more sustainable practices, wrapping up in a blanket instead of the heat to up to 75 or 80 degrees, the more that we can reduce our use of energy, especially in these high use areas like winter months, is going to be especially crucial for us.
Okay, that's good. That's good advice. So what's your green resolution for 2019, Trey?
So I am not the biggest reader, and I feel like it's my biggest flaw. I do a lot of reading on the internet, but I don't do a lot of book reading.
Mm-hmm.
My resolution is I want to read one green book per month. And I've already got my book picked out for January. It's called Sustainability Made Simple. It was published in 2017, and it's just talking about ways that we can change our everyday lives to be more sustainable.
It's a good book. I just recently read it on Kindle.
We should think about adding some book reports.
I think we ought to write a book, but that's another thing.
That's a bigger lift. Well, that is an excellent resolution. I have to admit, I read a lot, but I don't tend to read more scientific or nonfiction books. So I think that's a really good resolution. So, Sarah, you were looking at how a person can be a better water steward. What did you come up with?
Yeah, because agriculture globally consumes about 70% of our fresh water, the foods that we eat play a huge role in our water footprint. Mm-hmm. And so I was doing some research on the Water Footprint Network, and according to their data, a 6-ounce steak has a water footprint of 674 gallons. A hamburger is pretty comparable.
That's true.
But then pork, I guess they compared it to 3 ounces of pork, but has a water footprint of 135 gallons. One egg is about 52 gallons. And then a salad would be about 21 gallons. So eating lower on the food chain, and if I am eating animal products, eating things more like eggs, that can have a huge impact on water use. And then another thing too is, and this is one of my New Year's resolutions, is if I am eating animal products, to have them be grass-fed animal products, because then they are eating grass instead of corn and soy, which are heavily irrigated products. So they grass-fed.
And shipped. Those things are shipped, so they add to the carbon footprint too.
Yeah, absolutely. So just shopping more at my local farmers market for animal products instead of getting them from who knows where, even if they are organic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to make a resolution about trying to add more vegetarian items into their diet and, drop the animal diet.
Or move to less water-intensive and carbon-intensive foods like or meats like chicken. Mm. That actually makes a big difference. So you also looked at how to understand the impact of the stuff you use. What did you find?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I was looking into are products that are made out of recycled ocean plastic. So basically, waste that's in our ocean that's plastic, that's being upcycled into new products. And there's a few different products on the market that I find really exciting, like Adidas Sportswear has partnered with Parley for the Oceans, and they're creating high-performance sportswear from reclaimed marine plastic waste. And they now have about 110 Adidas products with these post-consumer recycled content. And then also, I don't know if you're familiar with 4Ocean. They are working around the clock 24/7 to clean the oceans, and they have crews that are doing that, and they fund their operations with a $20 bracelet that they sell. And for each bracelet, they say they can remove 1 pound of plastics from the ocean and coastline. So that's another exciting product. Another one that I was pretty impressed by is Method dish and hand soap. Mm-hmm. And they make a biodegradable hand soap, but it's in a reclaimed plastic bottle. And so they're also really helping to fuel the demand for getting this plastic out of the oceans and off of beaches. And the last product that I explored in this article is the Day Pack by Solgaard. And they are making backpacks out of upcycled ocean waste. And they say that each bag is responsible for removing 5 pounds of ocean waste. And they also, the backpack comes with a stainless steel straw too, so it can be a good way to help prevent future waste. But it looks like a really stylish bag, and so it seems useful, plus also practical for cleaning up the environment.
Well, and the fact that you get to use that kind of thing for 4 or 5 or 10 years if you take good care of it means that the plastic is not going to be reused. And so I think that's a great step. You know, I was looking at the same article and thinking about the fact that 4Ocean is really selling a kind of a marker of your support of taking plastic out, but the other 3 are trying to actually just make reclaimed ocean plastic into a normal part of a purchaser's engagement with the product. And I hope is where we see a lot more in the next year. I would be happy to pay a premium to get something that had been pulled out of the ocean, made into something new, and particularly something that will last a while, like a backpack.
Well, and I agree with you, Sarah. I mean, I thought these were really attractive items, and I thought the story was a really good story.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I spent about 4 months in a beach town in Ecuador, and I was just horrified by all the plastic waste that would wash up. And I think some of it was coming from the town itself, but I think a lot of it was just washing up from the ocean. You know, I'd be out swimming and something would kind of touch my leg and it would be a plastic bag, or, or there'd be, styrofoam plates floating around. And so it's great to use the capitalistic system to actually fuel demand to help solve a problem.
Yeah.
People have to be aware, though, and ask for it.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, Sarah, you have a very recent article up on the website about investing in funds that have either social welfare attributes or environmental attributes.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a number of mutual funds that are out there that take social and environmental considerations into account. And so they'll have filters. So, for example, many of these funds don't invest in tobacco, firearms, gambling, pornography, alcohol, things like that. And some funds have a more rigorous standard than others, but many of them will not invest in companies, for example, that have major human rights violations or things like that. Others might look for gender diversity, like having women on boards and upper positions within the company. But now there's more than $12 trillion invested with a socially responsible investment strategy. So this isn't really a niche product anymore. And there's some really large funds that have low expenses and are performing well that people can invest in. And so I profiled 5 of these kind of mainstream funds that are good investment opportunities.
That's great. Well, what is your green resolution for 2019, Sarah?
Well, speaking of investing, when I was researching this article, I started thinking about impact investment opportunities. Mm-hmm. And so these are opportunities where people can support positive projects or initiatives. And like examples might be preserving urban farmland or promoting renewable energy development. So I'm interested in just finding out what's going on in Maine, or else investing in a project that's promoting renewable energy development. Mm-hmm. So I think that's just so important for really dramatically reducing carbon emissions.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see more focus on local or regional investing opportunities. Because investors tend to diversify so much, they look globally for all these opportunities. But I believe people would make more investments in sustainable local ventures.
Yeah, and even though these filters exist, like the fund that I'm investing in, I looked at some of the top holdings, and there's some major banks. And then when I got to thinking, it's like, well, are these banks funding new pipelines, or, are they actually funding
Right.
things that I really don't support? And I think even if you're going with a socially responsible mutual fund, many of them still allow fossil fuels, or they might allow nuclear power, or things that I don't necessarily want to invest in. So these kinds of impact investment opportunities are a great way to just sort of sidestep all of that.
I think that's a really good point. So another area where people might have a resolution is how they can better reduce, reuse, and recycle better. What kind of thoughts did you all have on that?
Well, I think the first thing that we have to do is understand your local rules and what's available. And, of course, the Earth911 database is a great place to start, and we've got how-to guides about all those things. But as we all know and talked about on the last show, the Chinese ban has really drastically changed the way that the recycling industry it operates here in the United States. And so being better informed and recognizing when something is no longer being collected. For instance, we got some notes in the last week from folks who have been told that plastic number 4 is no longer accepted by their municipal systems because there's just so much of it baled up and ready for processing that nobody's buying because we can't send it to China like we used to. That's the kind of constant environment of change that we have to be aware of. And starting from the grassroots, you're going to start with something that, you have some control over, some influence, and try to keep these things going forward in the right way.
Yeah, I think that's really important. We have a couple of good articles on the website. One is 3 ways to help your city recycle better. Another is communities can drive change. But the takeaway for me is really don't make assumptions about what is, actually do some research, because I have been used to recycling a pretty high volume of stuff, and now I know that not all of it is recyclable. And our local recycling companies are saying quality versus quantity. Don't toss everything in. Look at it, figure out what can be recycled. And that's causing me then to think about things at the front end. Like I recently bought some shampoo bars that are like soap bars, but they're shampoo, to try to get away from the plastic bottles. We've been looking at our bread bags. We have a way we can recycle bags, but bread bags that have paper stickers stuck on them are difficult, whereas bags that have just printing on them may be more recyclable. So I think a lot of it is being more aware and thinking about what you need to do. But what do you think, Trey and Sarah? And Trey in particular, I know you do a lot of thinking and work in the recycling arena. So what would be your advice for someone who wants to try to recycle better?
I think the other thing that's really timely right now is we generate 25% more waste during the holiday season than elsewhere throughout the year. And the EPA has estimated that 80% of that waste could either be reused or recycled. So think about when you're unwrapping gifts during the holidays, your Christmas tree, you're making more food at home when you're entertaining loved ones, all that stuff. Just think about where it's going when you are done with it. Can you get more renewable and sustainable methods for the holiday waste?
That's good advice.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. And I think waste reduction is a great place to look, because I feel like recycling is a step in the right direction, but it almost seems like it's looking at the symptom and then trying to find a solution for it. Whereas waste reduction just eliminates things altogether, like shopping the bulk aisle at the natural food store, and bringing your own glass jars and refilling them just eliminates the packaging altogether. Another thing I've been thinking of is what I throw away and if anyone would actually want it first. At my local dump, there's an area where people will leave things, and it amazes me. I'll bring some dilapidated falling apart piece of furniture, and before I can even pull it out of my car, somebody's loaded it in their truck. So a lot of times there is demand, or Craigslist, or there's a lot of free and swap pages on Facebook. So there's a lot of online resources too for reusing materials.
And that's a long-standing tradition in the human experience is recognizing in other people's junk something that you can turn into something you can enjoy. So we should encourage that as much as possible.
And some of the Buy Nothing Facebook pages are pretty interesting, too. I know I belong to one. I haven't really participated, but someone after Thanksgiving was looking for a turkey carcass. And she just explained, I didn't do turkey this year, but my family wants turkey soup. So if anyone has a turkey carcass post-Thanksgiving, I will happily make soup and give you a portion of the soup. And I sort of thought, man, that is taking recycling to a new level. That is really clever.
I think these kinds of community actions where you get together and somebody does make soup for the whole neighborhood using all the carcasses would be the kind of thing we're talking
fantastic.
about. There was a company that briefly did it for about 2 years called gosh, I can't think what it's called. Okay, second senior moment. Nope, I can't remember.
It'll come to you while you're driving home.
When I'm driving home. But they organized local neighborhood cooks, and everybody would come by and pick up food from the cook at the end of the day to take home and eat.
That's a great idea.
And so these folks were making money from being good cooks, being part of their community, and serving others something delicious. That kind of vision is where we need to go. It was called Josephine.
Oh, very good.
I also liked a lot of the ideas that we had in a recent podcast about buying useful gifts or buying experiences for gifts. Like I have 2 children, and it's easy just to kind of get on Amazon and buy a bunch of plastic for them and call it good. But, then I was thinking, well, why not take them to a hotel with a nice swimming pool, or, give them an experience instead. So their main Christmas gift this year is going to be going to a local hotel for a few nights.
Nice.
That's an excellent one.
Thing to mention, since it is the end of the year and people are considering donations, a lot of secondhand stores will accept products for donation and still give you that tax write-off. So if you have clothing or electronics or other things in your house that you say, you know what, I'm not going to use this anymore, donate it this time of year, get that nice tax write-off, and everybody wins.
And you have a clean closet.
It's the win-win-win, right? So the next question I had was, how can I become more involved in my community? And this one I did some research on. We have a good article on the website on green giving, 5 nonprofits clobbering climate change. And it's a good starting point, not just to see what nonprofits are doing, but also some of them, such as the 350 program, may have local groups in your area. I would say, think about what your interests are. If your interest is in gardening, then there may be a local group doing gleaning of fruit trees to help make both produce available in food banks, but also they may do some community jam making. If your interest is in clean water, there may be clean water groups. If your interest is in education, then there are things that you can do with your local schools. But look online. I think Facebook in particular is a great way to find groups.
A couple others too.
Yeah, a couple others too.
I would suggest both Nextdoor, which is a locally oriented social network and very much kind of evolving into a Craigslist plus neighborhood watch. And the other is go to Meetup. Search Meetup. There are tens of thousands of small, self-organized groups getting together in communities to talk about things like the 350.org.
Yeah, I had
goals.
never tried a Meetup before, and a friend organized one, and I was amazed. I was talking to another woman there. She goes to 3 different ones for different interests.
Yeah, these communities are out there, and they're growing stronger all the time.
So my green resolution for 2019 is that I'm going to look into getting solar panels on our house because we are not overhung by trees. We have a very simple roof line, and I like to keep my house a little bit on the warm side, and that makes me feel a little guilty. But if the energy was coming from solar panels, then that would take away some of that guilt. And I also was thinking, I'm trying to think, what are the things that I can do that actually may touch on climate? And I think that the solar power is one. The other is adding more vegetarian items into our regular menu and reducing our animal product diet.
Yeah, the current quiz on Earth911 is about the various options you have as resolutions and their carbon impact. So you can choose. And for instance, one of the questions is which is more efficient, not driving to work or skipping a half pound or a quarter pound of meat at lunch. And the numbers are not as clear-cut as they would seem. Carbon-wise, transportation's way ahead, but when you factor in the water used on beef, for instance, it looks almost even.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. So, Mitch, how can I involve my family and become more aware of environmental issues and my ability to make change? How can I inform myself?
Well, I have to think about this in the context of grandchildren soon. So I'm thinking about what I did to my children. And many of the books that we recommended in a recent 5 children books that expertly teach about the environment are representative of what I read, fortunately. So I feel pretty good about that. So The Lorax by Dr. Seuss, written in 1971, is an excellent tale of environmental awareness and what happens when you deforest and pollute your environment. Blueberries for Sal by Robert McCloskey is another one. I remember that from my childhood. And The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein is another book that, by reading about the environment, you help kids think through their relationship with it. And I think Dr. Seuss and Shel Silverstein are great foundations for young kids. But then as they grow older, you also want to get them involved in their communities. And a lot of children today, my kids included, and they're young adults, spend most of their time interacting through a screen. And bringing them outside. And we have an article about raising kids who will take action and value teamwork skills. It's really important to get them outside and interacting with other people and to do things. There's a couple of interesting facts. When you help a kid or you ask a kid to be involved in taking care of the home, doing homework, they take greater pride in the home. It's measurably true. It changes their relationship to their community. So get your kids out, spending time with other children, not only playing, but give them something to do, fun. Clean up the park, collect enough money to contribute to a food bank. These are all simple things that by pulling together, they develop the satisfaction of accomplishing something together. And that, as we were talking about before, is the key to that conversation about what is the real sustainable society going to look like rather than competing ideals. So get them out and get them involved. And I think that's the key to getting your family more involved. Now, for 2019, if you want to make a change, I suggest picking 1 or 2 projects and just getting out there and starting to do it. If you haven't done this with your kids and they are not aware of the ability to work together or of the importance of the environment, that's the best way to get them involved. But you're going to have to take them by the hand. And, choosy eaters have to be confronted with a food 48 times before they'll try it.
Is that right?
Don't give up. Yeah, it's actually true.
Gosh.
So get them out and get them involved.
One thing I often do with my kids, too, when they have some big plastic toy that they want me to buy for them, especially if it doesn't look like something that'll last very long, I'll say, do you think that's a toy you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of and still play with a year from now? And if it's something that they really value and really want, I'll buy it for them. But 9 times out of 10, they'll say, yeah, it looks like a lot of plastic, and I think it's pretty poorly made. They'll say it's kind of junky and decide to pass on it. But that sort of helps short-circuit that impulse of just wanting to consume shiny, bright-colored toys.
Yeah, asking them to think. That is the first step towards social awareness.
It is hard, though, because, for example, we were at the grocery store, and there was some local grass-fed yogurt that came in a glass jar, and then there were some individual snack-size yogurts. They were organic, but they weren't local or grass-fed, and they had much more colorful labels, and both of my kids wanted those. And then, I feel kind of like a stick in the mud sometimes saying, well, it's not local, and it's not grass-fed, and... but ultimately, after I kind of gave a little explanation, and they were both willing to switch to the local option.
Yeah. One of the things I really appreciate too, not to be shamelessly plugging our website, but the breadth of stories we have is really great. And I appreciate always being able to figure out, some of the make-it-yourself options. So I think it's a good place to start as you're starting to figure out how you can get more engaged and more involved.
Well, and in 2019, we're going to have more of that, and particularly a focus on more foods that you can eat. That was a big request from readers, so we're going to step up to that.
Excellent.
Let's get to those Earthling questions.
Okay, Earthling questions. And this kind of touches on what Trey was talking about. Several people on Facebook have asked, are wrapping paper and bows recyclable?
Well, the answer is generally no, for a variety of reasons having to do with the coating or the way that the paper is produced. First, wrapping paper is extremely thin, and so the fibers in it are not easily recoverable, and they've got a sheen on it of some sort, whether it's wax or a plastic or otherwise. And then bows just are not recyclable. They are a plasticky, nasty mess that doesn't. I'm not even sure what a bow is made of. Come to think of it.
Well, at one point in time, it would have been silk, but that's unlikely today.
And a silk bow would decompose.
Mm-hmm. Well, what should people do? I mean, I know they can wrap in plain paper, or you could make some designs on plain paper.
Well, we looked at the total number or poundage of produced gift wrapping paper produced in the United States, and it's about 4.6 million pounds. And we believe about half of it ends up in a landfill based on what current recycling rates are. You should just decide not to use it. Mm-hmm. That is the most efficient way to do it. The second, and this has an impact on how much landfill gift wrapping paper there is reuse. Mm-hmm. So if you can get 2 or 3 or 4 years out of it, that's a far lower impact on the environment than if you just threw it away after the first year. But unfortunately, again, you just can't recycle this stuff. It will not be good for the recycling system.
Mm.
One other suggestion I would make is if you are going to buy wrapping paper that's made of recycled paper.
Yes, excellent point.
It'll say on the wrapper.
Very good. Okay. Well, our second question is Daniel, who was asking on Facebook. He says, "Hi, Earth911. I have many unused discs. What can I do? Please tell me. I am writing from Ethiopia."
Well, and again, these are a challenging material. They are recyclable, but you can also reuse them. First and easiest way is to give it to somebody who doesn't have the music or the movie that you have, especially if you've digitized it already. So rip and pass along. Then the second option is to take it and donate to a nonprofit. That's an easy way to get somebody else an evening's entertainment. But we also have a couple of articles on upcycling. So we've seen some beautiful art created, and we have 10 reuse ideas for CDs and DVDs that is a great introduction to the creative use of shiny discs and chips of shiny discs in art. And with regard to the recycling, we do have a recycling guide, how to recycle CD and tapes. And we'll walk you through everything there, including where locally you can search to find a source of recycling.
Well, that sounds pretty good. Well, I think that is that for this episode. Enjoy,
and for the year.
And for the year. So enjoy your holidays. Best wishes for the end of 2018 and the new year ahead, and good luck with all of those green resolutions. You can send us an email at feedback@earth911.com. You can also listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and, of course, at our earth911.com website. And we will see you next time in 2019.
Thanks, everybody. Happy New Year.